つでしょ。
風の行く先もみ違う知らん
相関化粧。
I know a lot of players are reluctant to roll on the Kazuha banner. Most of the big Genshin Impact content creators have voiced their very negative opinions on this character, and with all the cool 5 stars that have been leaked, I get that this might be another Albedo situation where most people skip that banner in anticipation for Xiao. So what I hope to provide you in this video is an in-depth look at how Kazuha plays and how well he synergizes with certain characters in the game. If after this video you think his aesthetics and playstyle fits your liking or works well with the characters you have, go ahead and roll for him without any regret. We're gonna do things a bit differently in this video. Even though I know Kazuha as a main DPS carry is not popular among the player base, I'm still going to cover some teams that can make him shine in that role. So for the 1% of the 1% of players who are actually looking for team builds for your main DPS Kazuha, you've come across the right video. Obviously, we'll still look at some of the best teams for support Kazuha as well. Timestamps are at the bottom if you want to skip ahead. As always, I'm going to go over a bunch of different variations so that you can find a team that not only works for the characters you have, but also suits the way you play the game the best. I tried to provide a ton of different combos and a variety of characters so that each team doesn't feel like an off-brand version of another. I'm super excited to show you guys all these different team builds. Kazuha is a sword-wielding character with the Anemo vision. His ascension stat is Elemental Mastery, which is great for an Anemo support, but scales very poorly for a carry. This, along with his passive and his skill set, makes him more of an enabler that amplifies the damage done by his teammates. If he's filling a supportive role, he is very cheap to build and doesn't require a 5-star weapon or godlike artifacts. Stacking Elemental Mastery is pretty easy, and is complemented heavily by the EM buff we received very recently. He's also great in certain situations where Venti isn't as ideal in. For example, if you're playing main DPS carries like Hu Tao or Child that normally can't reach enemies in Venti's ult, Kazuha can be a very attractive option. I usually take this time to talk about the important reactions for Kazuha, but because he's an Anemo user, almost all the reactions are good here. Take your pick of your favorite characters and what the situation calls for. The only reaction I would avoid is Super Conduct because the base damage is the lowest in the game and you don't need to swirl the reaction to get the physical resistance debuff. Obviously, Geo doesn't react with Anemo at all, so Geo characters won't be that beneficial paired with Kazuha. As far as Elemental Resonance, I'd avoid Electro, Geo, and Hydro Resonance. Electro and Hydro are obvious since they just suck. Geo Resonance in a vacuum is amazing, but putting 2 Geo characters of Kazuha and his Elemental Mastery kit would be a big waste. Pyro and Cry are fantastic in general. However, overall, I think Kazuha works best with no resonance at all. This allows us to play 3 different elements, which gives us so many more elemental reactions we can proc and makes the best use out of Kazuha's kit. Let's take a look first at the best teams for Kazuha DPS. Again, if you want to just look at the support builds, feel free to skip ahead. I've gone ahead and labeled teams Abyss ready if I think that team is something you can plug and play in Abyss. Obviously, each Abyss reset comes with floors and chambers with varying enemies and weaknesses, so I would suggest you to use these teams as a foundation and tweak it for your situation and preference. Team 1 features Kazuha, Chongyun, Xiangling, and Xingqiu. This is my best in slot for Kazuha DPS. This team takes inspiration from the national team. Even though we lose the snapshot and the great ult combo with Chongyun by cutting Bennett, we're still abusing the power of Vaporize and Melt together and amplifying that damage of Kazuha. We also lose access to great healing, so we have to compensate by making Xingqiu our main means of sustain. Depending on your constellations, you can easily cut Chongyun for Bennett and focus on Vaporize, but I think C2 Chongyun has more value being able to spam our abilities and getting off as many reactions as possible. Tweak this build as you'd like, but I think even with the Electro reaction buffs, it's nowhere close to how much damage you deal if you focus on Vape and Melt. The Abyss core for this comp is Kazuha, Xiangling, Xingqiu, and flex that last spot. Team 2 features Kazuha, Fischl, Xingqiu, and Bennett. Fischl and Xingqiu are great sub DPS carries that synergize well together on a team. Their ability to deal damage off the field allows you to play Kazuha DPS to maximum potential. With every basic attack, you're triggering a reaction. Now mix in Kazuha's skill set and you have yourself a very formidable team comp. Bennett is in here for healing, buffing, and the ability to proc vaporize as well. Electro Charge works really well with other elements by allowing you to proc 3 reactions simultaneously, which in this case is Overload, Vaporize, and Electro Charge. So we can abuse this as much as we can with Kazuha's ability to deal extra elemental damage, thereby applying another aura and giving us even more reactions to play with. This keeps looping over and over again and allows us to proc 2 to 3 times more reactions than if we didn't have Kazuha here. The base core for this comp is Kazuha, Fischl, Xingqiu, and then Flex. Team 3 is my free to play and features Kazuha, Xiangling, Kaya, and Barbara. This is my best free to play for Kazuha DPS. With just the free to play characters, you can still get a pretty decent team together. Xiangling and Kaya work so well together to proc Melt. Kazuha is great with Gooba, since your E creates a small vacuum that pulls enemies together into an area, trapping them and allowing Gooba to hit all of them at once. Barbara is your standard free-to-play healer. This team does get a lot better when you have more characters at your disposal, but it's still very playable if you, for example, started an account today and rolled Kazuha with your free wishes. Let's take a look at some teams for Kazuha support. Team 1 features Hu Tao, Xingqiu, Fischl or Beidou, and Kazuha. One of the main problems with playing Hu Tao with Venti was her inability to reach enemies that were sucked by Venti's ultimate. Kazuha fits in here perfectly, with his ability to leave up an animal field that doesn't interfere with Hu Tao's playstyle. You can activate Kazuha's Q and then start shredding enemies in Hu Tao's E for almost the entire duration. Again, the Xingqiu and Fischl pair work very well with Hu Tao at proccing 3 reactions with 1 attack, which is amplified even further by Kazuha's ability to absorb an element and deal that elemental damage, thereby applying the aura again for the next reaction cycle. If you have these characters, I'd heavily recommend giving this a try. It's extremely fun and satisfying. Xingqiu is your healer in this team, and you have Hu Tao's ultimate to fall back on, but if you still find yourself dying a lot, swap out Fischl for Beidou. The base core for this comp is Hu Tao, Xingqiu, Kazuha, and Flex. Team 2 features Child, Fischl or Beidou, Xiangling, and Kazuha. Child is another character that has anti-synergy with Venti's ult. This team again abuses the interaction between Hydro, Electro, and Pyro reactions as mentioned in Team 1. Kazuha fills a similar role here, with the added bonus of his E also creating a mini vacuum that allows Child to get more value out of Riptide's AoE and Xiangling's Gooba. If you're worried about the lack of heal, you can replace Xiangling with Xingqiu's C2. You lose Vaporize, but Xingqiu's C2 amplifies the damage Child does greatly. Again, you could swap Fischl out for Beidou to get some more resistances as well. The base core for this comp is Child, Fischl, Kazuha, and Flex. Team 3 features Diluc, Xingqiu, Chongyun, and Kazuha. Diluc works very well with Kazuha here. Xingqiu is a Vaporize enabler, and Chongyun gives you access to Melt. A big bonus of Chongyun is C2 as well, which gives you cooldown reduction so that your combo can stay active for the majority of the fight. Xingqiu and Chongyun together also proc Freeze, which gives your Diluc access to another layer of damage in Shatter. Kazuha pulls the entire team together by allowing you to proc more reactions without making it awkward to hit the enemies with your basics. I still like Venti over Kazuha when playing Klee or Yang-Fei, but you can easily play Klee or Yang-Fei here instead of Diluc as long as you replace Chongyun with the likes of a Ganyu or a Diona. The base core for this comp is Diluc, Xingqiu, Kazuha, and then Flex. Team 4 features Ganyu, Xiangling, Diona, and Kazuha. Ganyu works well with Kazuha, but I still think Venti is the best animal support for her. This is a pretty traditional Ganyu team setup, bringing Xiangling for Melt and Diona for Cryo Resonance and access to healing and shielding. This team will still put in a lot of work with Kazuha over Venti, but it may be a little slower to clearing out mobs. Kazuha's E has pretty nice synergy with Gooba as well, so again you'll be able to land more AoE melt damage than usual when Pyronado is down. The base core for this comp is Ganyu, Diona, Kazuha, and then you flex that last spot. Team 5 is my free to play and features Kaya, Xiangling, Barbara, and Kazuha. This team is identical to my free-to-play version of Kazuha DPS, but you'll be playing Kaya DPS instead, who has a better overall kit to fit the role. You can focus on building your Kazuha for full elemental mastery, which will translate to devastating melt damage when you combine his ult with Kaya and Xiangling's. Barbara is just here for healing, but you may get some cheeky vape and freeze procs here and there. A lot of you guys ask me to update my older team build videos to account for all the new characters, but instead of doing that, I typically just include updated versions of older teams in the new characters video. If I didn't mention a character in this video, it means that I don't think Kazuha contributes enough to justify putting him in over the existing characters in that particular team setup. As you can see, Kazuha definitely has features that can be taken advantage of. With certain characters like Child and Hu Tao, he may just be the final piece that they need to realize their full potential. Kazuha DPS could be a lot better if electro reactions can crit. Because of how his E works and plunge attack also works, if he ends up proccing an electro reaction, it would significantly decrease his damage output. Honestly, the biggest benefit for him is the ability to abuse proccing multiple reactions with Electro Charge, and if he can't crit, there's really no point in playing him as a main DPS and thereby sacrificing the EM boosts he can provide to the team over anyone else. Anyways, give me your thoughts on Kazuha in general, and if there are any teams that I didn't mention in this video that everyone should try out. If you enjoy content like this, make sure to subscribe if you're not already. Thanks for watching, till next time.